the amount of times I've heard, nah, that's not VFX, that's actual special effects. Nah, I spent hours fixing that on screen. What do you mean? But yeah, it's crazy because what was that? I think I watched this or I saw this article because this is another thing that I recently worked on, which was Prey, the movie. And I loved working on it because it was kind of like a callback to the Predator and everything. And guys, you should watch it if you haven't. It's really cool. But it's kind of like kind of an origin story of it, I think, or whatever it is. But it's kind of cool to just see how people. Obviously, there was a actual actor on set, but a lot of it was CGI. But you sit on Twitter and everyone's like, I fucking love how there was so much of actual effects, but they took the VFX and threw it on top and ruined the movie. But in reality, everything was VFX. Even the backgrounds were like put in. There was all blue screen. There was nothing real on that set.
That's
But
crazy.
it's crazy to see how much again, like real-time rendering and all these like softwares that we're using nowadays just makes everything look ultra realistic. And the things that people consider VFX, like the flashy things or creatures and obviously the other things, sometimes can just be considered real, which is crazy. But yeah.
So, like I said before, like VFX, just I feel like it encompasses like a whole lot of stuff. Because like when I think VFX, I think like dragons or like all these supernatural things. But like you
Yeah.
said, like the tiniest things, they do little touch ups or they do this here or
Yes.
whatnot. Um,
um
have you kind of worked kind of through that spectrum from like it sounds like the big dragons, but like the little touch ups as well, or do you more do
yeah,
what's
so
your like
I
specialty? I'm assuming everyone kind of gets into a little niche in this large
Mhm.
scheme of
Yeah.
craziness.
It's a big term for a big team basically. Um, so for me, I'm considered a compositor, which is like the final eye before it goes onto the screen. So it's like before me, obviously, will be production where you have CG, animation, rigging, all those little tiny little details are done before it reaches me. And I would have something like removing green screens, adding making sure that the CG fits within like a realistic environment. It would be color corrections if CG looks bad, if it's or it's like oh god, an actor is wearing a wrong shirt today. Let's change the shirt completely. Oh god, there's a pimple on a face. Let's remove the pimple. It could be the smallest thing to the biggest thing at this point. But it's mostly problem solving when it reaches me. It's like the final picture is dependent on again on the compositor before it goes to color, edit, sound, all these other things. Um, but obviously, to get to compositing, you have this whole other range of things that happens way before, um, which is what is actually again like the whole thing is called VFX, but it's just a small department of what I work with, and it's again it's maybe like seconds on a screen, milliseconds on a screen, but for us it's like oh 120 frames, 155 frames, 1000 frames. So we work frames like frame by frame, that people will just look like that and you're like oh that went by so fast and you're like that's my shot, that's my shot, that's my shot. um, that's usually how it goes. And if you've ever like sat with me watching a movie with me and if I worked on a long time of it, I will actually do that and I'm like that's my shot, that's my shot. That's it. And then they'd be like, but what did you do? And I was like, I helped. That's all. I helped do it. I can't
I
explain
helped.
it
I
because
did good.
there's so much of technical stuff that goes into it, right? It could be like, oh, I fixed the CGI, I fixed the color on this, but it might have been the smallest fix and it was on screen, and it's what makes film at the end of the day. Like even if it's a second, like the tiniest second that you put into that touched the screen. So it's like whatever you do, it matters in the industry, right? From even if it's like okay, you're getting in a shot fully again, no CGI, and it's just a person, and they're like, hey, there's kind of like I said, I had to do this like when I was intern. I had to remove bra straps. I did a bunch of wig glue removals for I don't remember the show. That was one thing that I did once. Because apparently they were like their department was supposed to do makeup well, and they were awarded for best makeup, but they didn't do the wig glue part well. So we had to go and do the makeup in VFX. So we went and removed all the glue from foreheads on every shot that we could see it up close, which was very visible for a lot of the cameras, and sometimes it was far off shots. But yeah, it was so small that you wouldn't even notice it, and it's in like shows like I don't know, Blue Bloods, for example, or which is another show that actually worked on The Americans, which again you wouldn't think about VFX actually being in that, but that's again it's the smallest things that you don't even realize are VFX are actually VFX on screen. Um, and again, those things just take what a few seconds, or sometimes it takes a longer time if it's like something like that, like a makeup fix is sometimes tedious, and you're sitting there frame by frame trying to fix it, or you have something easy like, hey, let's just throw something in here, fix the color, and throw it off, and you're done. But it could be anything, ranging from here to there. So, um, but yeah, that's so far what I can say. What VFX is, it's just a big team. It's just like one cannot work without the other, and it's just a whole like when people say yeah you should watch the credits after a movie, it's because there's a lot of people who've spent so much of time and you like don't really real. And again, some of them are not even being credits. I've had that happen one too many times to me. So, but yeah, it just there's so many people that just go into making a film, and that all fully encompasses VFX, and that's again after production, after filmography, and everything else that comes with it. So yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I know
The
with like
industry's crazy.
the credits, it seems like sometimes the credits is as long as some movies. Like you sit there and then it's like this studio, and you're like, okay, half an hour later, and then this studio, like it just seems it's crazy how many people work on them. And it sounds like is there usually like multiple compositors on
Yeah.
a film?
So
Because you said
yeah,
like,
of
oh, hey,
course.
I've got this little section here, and Jimmy's got this little section here, and
Yeah.
so you guys all
So
work
yeah, so
on.
you can have multiple compositors on a film, multiple compositors on a shot. You can have multiple compositors per second. It literally is like I said, everything is so dependent on the team itself, and that's why it's such a like a team playing kind of industry where you're so dependent on the person who worked before you to have done the right job, whether it's the person who was on set watching the fact that there was no boom mic that was showing up on screen, or whether it's the person who forgot about the fact that you filmed a green screen shot with a green top. It's simple things like that, which just makes it, when it comes down to compositing, it's all up to that person who gets the shot and whatever you've done before that shot to when you get it. And then you just gotta problem solve the best as you can, and hope for the best. Or sometimes you get lucky and it gets omitted completely. So that's another thing. So yeah, it's a like I said, it's a full cycle almost, and then you see it on screen at the end of it. So or on television, either way.
So do you kind
But
of
yeah.
work off of the compositor like the frames before you, or is it like
No,
you know
sometimes you'll
this
get like
is
a yeah, you'll sometimes get a blank shot. Like sometimes I'll get straight up a green screen shot, and they're like, "Hey, can you put the background? Can you remove the key?" As in, like how we do chroma keys for OBS. So basically, I'd
yeah
be sitting there removing the key, doing it very fine enough to like make sure that we get every detail in there. Um, and then putting in the background, which could come from CG, or it could be something that's again a 2D element, which is already shot by them, or something of that sort. And it's again putting all of that together. It could be something like that where I get again from scratch, or it could be someone worked on this and they put everything together. All you need to do is finalize everything detail wise, like make sure every pixel is fine, and then send it off. So it could be literally at any point of that shot you could be working on it. So it again, it all depends on how skilled you are really at being able to do it yourself. Um, or like how much you can really handle of it. So sometimes it can be very complex, like I said. So sometimes it's like, oh, they have CGI and stuff like that, but sometimes it's taking like real 2D elements and trying to figure out how you can animate something that's just two pictures and make it look 3D. So that's things like that too. So
I
again,
never even
it's all
thought about
depends.
that. That sounds freaking crazy.
I mean, they do that a lot for blood, and they do that a lot for, what's it called? Like gunshots. So gunshots is, if you think about it, it's just 2D, on 2D. So you're sitting there and you're probably tracking a gun and making sure you're getting the bullets from wherever they're going or the direction it's going, and you're adding flashes every second or whatever it was. So that's 2D on 2D, but you're sitting
Okay.
there and you're trying to fix it and add it on, right? So again, it's the subtle things that we don't think about, but they actually have the effects. And blood, again, which is the biggest thing, which every movie has. A
Yeah.
lot of the times it's not practical because it looks fake. So you sit there and you color correct it, and it looks like blood because it's, color corrected and makes it look that way. But you can really tell the difference of what looks like cranberry sauce to what is actual blood on on screen if until you've touched it up. So um, but yeah, that's one way to look at it.